Hello to everyone. My name is Andy Pilgrim. It's a pleasure to be here today. I want to thank you and your teachers for making a little bit of time. Before I get into the traffic safety side of things, I want to tell you a little bit about myself because I think it's important. I originally came to the US from the UK as a computer programmer in the 1980s. I'm a professional race car driver. I've got 5 championships and 64 race wins so far in my career. 2008, started the Traffic Safety Education Foundation to do a lot of research and work to do with traffic safety and hopefully helping you guys. I've been in traffic safety for about 20 years. I've spoken to hundreds of thousands of students in schools all over the US in that time. And I've also been asked these days, I get to speak at a lot of conferences, National Sheriff's Association conference, a lot of police departments, the FBI Academy at Quantico, talking to FBI agents about traffic safety, the mental side of driving, something you'll hear a little bit about. And also I've spoken at dozens and dozens of driver education teacher conferences to help driver education teachers keep up with what I'm doing. I've produced several education videos and PSAs, that would be public service announcements, over the last 10 years. But there's a point here. Just because I might think something's a good idea and I make a video about it, before I'm done editing, before I'm done finished editing, I will send all of my information, whether it's a video or a public service announcement, off to the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and some other federal agencies in Washington. They have been very, very kind, very patient to have a look at my stuff because I need to make sure that you get the best information possible. As far as the presentation today, you're going to hear about the realities of America's traffic safety situation. I put safety in inverted commas because really it's not safe. So a little bit of cynicism there. There's no doubt new and different ideas are desperately needed. Hopefully I've got some good ones here to help you out. You're just starting on the driver education process. I understand that, and it's critical that you hear this information now, and then you're going to take driver education much more seriously. I'm hoping all of you are going to be part of a solution to change America's distracted driving epidemic for the better. There's a very important fact here before we get into the details here. Driving is probably the most dangerous thing you're ever going to do on a daily basis. Driving has that ability to kill yourself, your friends, your family, and even people you don't know. So please understand that, and we have to respect the driving process. There is no doubt we have a distracted driving epidemic in the US. When you guys are passengers in a vehicle, just look around you if you didn't already. There are so many people looking at smartphones, eating in cars, just generally not paying attention to what they're doing. There is no doubt we have a big problem. Something I want to just bring up here quick, accident. We never use the word accident. Traffic safety experts don't use the word accident. Accident has 2 meanings. One is basically it happened by chance, and the other side is it happened because somebody wasn't paying attention to what they're doing. So we don't use the word accident. We use the words collision and crash. In fact, human error is the cause of over 97% of all collisions and crashes on the roads. The next point that I bring up here involves the autonomous cars. It's kind of like the Google car, and that's going to give you a clue about some of the real issues. Sadly, the discussion about the arrival of these cars has not been about the lives they're going to save. It's been more about economics. Social commentators, financial experts say that we should be really worried because vehicle insurance companies are going to go out of business. Car dealerships are going to close repair shops. They're talking about hundreds of thousands of jobs being lost. For me, I'm asking what about the lives they're going to save? It could be at least 50 years before we see mostly autonomous or self-driving cars out there, and we really need to focus on the right now. Distracted driving is a factor or cause in over 80% of all collisions and crashes. Statistics for distracted driving are all over the place, so we have to clear some things up. The definition of distracted driving is anything that takes away your concentration and attention away from driving is distracted driving. Please remember, distracted driving habits and behaviors are always choices. Let me give you some examples of distracted driving. Manipulating or using a smartphone, hands-free or otherwise, too tired to drive, falling asleep at the wheel, drunk driving, obviously, ignoring speed limits. There are many, many more. Let's look at a little video. There are 2 sides to the distracted driving issue that all drivers need to understand, and it revolves around overall awareness. If your eyes or mind are away from driving for some distraction, then you are always either dangerous or vulnerable. Let me explain. Many drivers, both experienced and new, believe they are safe and doing nothing wrong as they drive distracted, if you can believe that. They tell me they can drive distracted, maintain their speed, stay in their lane, etc. They actually tell me this as if they are above the distracted driving problem. I want to change this extremely dangerous perception right here. We've all seen or heard tragic stories about drivers hitting other vehicles head-on. A driver who veers into another lane or into oncoming traffic is obviously completely unaware and dangerous. There is no doubt about that one, but let's look a little deeper. To the drivers who think they can successfully drive distracted, I explain this. You may think you can drive distracted and not be dangerous, but I know for certain you are vulnerable. Imagine, for the sake of discussion, that you were looking away from the road for a second or deep into your phone call right at the moment an oncoming vehicle veered into your lane. Exactly. You would not see them at all if you were looking away, or you would react much slower because you were distracted and your mind was deep into the phone call. Not good, huh? Research shows us that this is accurate. Every day this tragic scenario plays out on the roads. Bad choices followed by unfortunate timing. It takes two fully or partially distracted drivers coming together in most collisions and crashes. Never give up your chance to see distracted drivers coming into your driving space. I don't want you to be dangerous or vulnerable. I want to give you a little scenario that explains dangerous and vulnerable and also brings into focus the distracted driving and why I say 80% of these collisions and crashes are caused by distracted driving. Imagine a two-lane road, one lane one way, one lane the other way. You are driving along in your lane at 40 miles an hour, speed limit, everything's good. The vehicle coming the other way, you notice that they are coming into your lane and they're sort of coming towards you. You don't care at that point whether that driver is drunk, asleep, or texting, or whatever other distraction it may be. You only care enough to see them early enough to do something to get out of the way, whether go left, whether you go right, whether you slow down. So that's why all of these distractions, to me, are distracted driving, because it's how it affects you. He's dangerous. You could be vulnerable if you were also distracted. We have to talk about the use of seatbelts. Please, always use your seatbelts whenever traveling in a vehicle, whether a driver or a passenger, whether in the front seats or the rear seats. We see too many adults not wearing their seatbelts, and we know from the data this is transferring to their children when the children start to drive. Please, always use your seatbelts. We've got cars now being sold with Wi-Fi connectivity. And unfortunately, some of the adverts that I'm seeing on television that say basically keep you connected on the road with your Wi-Fi, that's a really poor choice of words. In my opinion, there is never a need for someone driving to be Wi-Fi connected. And this is especially true for new drivers. And we have to talk about the insurance companies. And again, insurance companies do a good business. They're great companies. We need insurance companies. As a traffic safety expert, I need to talk about what I see on the TV in these adverts. They use the word accident. Traffic safety experts don't. And again, it's just that side of accident, like, oh, I couldn't help it. We've seen things like they came from nowhere. They use the word blindsided in some of these ads. It should not be happening. If somebody came from nowhere, it meant the driver was not paying attention, because 99% of the time you can see where people are coming from. Again, there's one advert out there that talks about parallel parking. Somebody says it's only a matter of time until you rip some guy's bumper off. So you've got two choices. Get our insurance or take the bus. How about practice? Nobody mentioned practice. If you can't parallel park, go practice. You don't have to get the insurance or take the bus. Another one I heard was a T-boned by a minivan. And then we've got accident forgiveness. So if you get T-boned by a minivan, you've got accident forgiveness. Do you know how many people don't survive the first accident? And let me tell you, you get T-boned by a minivan, unless you're in a tank, you're going to feel it. You should not be hearing the word accident in these ads. It sends the wrong message. They are collisions and crashes, and they are not happening by chance. They're not meant to be. Most of them are preventable. Thousands are dying and millions are being injured every year, and it's getting worse, not better. Continuing on with looking at realities, we now need to look at how parent and adult distracted driving habits and behaviors affect children. Let's check out a PSA.
Sometimes Mom, she tries to lean back with her knee on the wheel while texting like that.
My mom talks on the phone like this. Blah, 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 blah. Well, Daddy sometimes holds the phone like this and drives at the same time. Sometimes my mom picks up the phone and texts like this. And also talks, and I don't like when he does that, so I keep on telling him both hands on the wheel.
I've never thought about it before, and I know I need to change it.
I need to change the way I drive.
I just never thought my kid was paying that much attention to my driving.
Recent research now estimates it's at least 80% of new drivers who've been affected by watching their parent distracted driving behavior as they grew up. As the PSA mentioned, this is a big problem. New drivers, no skills, really very little experience. You cannot afford to drive the same way as a parent who maybe has 20 years experience and gets by when they drive distracted. We don't want parents to drive distracted ever, but the fact is many do, but they have that experience and skill to fall back on. You don't have that. And if you drive the same way, it's a big problem. We need to talk a little bit about how the parents affect their children when it comes to driving. Studies are now showing that most parents don't understand that they are the biggest influence on their child's driving, but they are by far. Children start to learn driving habits and behaviors from actually watching their parents drive at age 4, if you can believe that. I'm now spending a lot of time educating parents about this new research. All parents need to know they are and always will be the most influential factor on their children's driving habits and behaviors. We need to mention something about smartphones because smartphones are certainly the 800-pound gorilla of distracted driving, along with infotainment systems, but really the smartphones are the big one. We need to explain a little bit about the hands-free myth. It's thought by many people, especially many parents, if you're on a hands-free phone call, you're safer. That is not true. The mental distraction of any phone call, whether it's hands-free or handheld, is the majority of the problem. Let me explain why. Your mind is on that phone call and everything else disappears. And that disappearance is in your peripheral or fringe vision, guys. So please understand, any phone call, but even a hands-free one, your peripheral vision is not going to work. They've done a ton of research on this for several years now. And you just have to know this. So please, no phone calls, hands-free or otherwise. Driver education teachers frequently see distracted driving habits and behaviors the students have picked up from watching their own parents. I mean, they tell me things like rolling through stop signs, running red lights, ignoring speed limits, tailgating, all types of phone use, and even aggressive and impatient driving. Believe me, that's what a driving education teachers are telling me. They're actually seeing the students exhibiting this when the teacher's sitting next to them. It's pretty obvious to the teachers after about 5 minutes. They tell me, yeah, I can tell you how their parents drove. Those same exact distracted and dangerous driving habits you saw in that list are exactly the ones causing most of the fatalities for new drivers in the US. They do not have to happen. It's very important that we give parents an out. And when I say that, I mean that I'm a traffic safety expert. Your driver ed teacher is an expert in this area. Parents are not. 99.99% of parents are not driver education teachers, are not traffic safety experts. Your parents did not grow up with smartphones. Driver education certainly didn't prepare them for this. Parent education, well, there really is no parent education. So the bottom line is, this is new information. Because parents haven't been taught about any of this, it's very important that the word gets out. And experts, traffic safety experts, are now telling parents, explaining to parents, your driving behaviors will pass on to your children. And again, if we had a very difficult driving test, things would be different, because you'd have to unlearn some of the things you'd seen in order to pass. But there are solutions, and we're going to talk about solutions because it's very important. The word choices is very important. It's always been about choices when it comes to distracted driving, and it's always been about choices when it comes to dangerous or reckless driving. So remember, we want you to make the right choices, the safe choice, and pay full attention to your driving at all times. I want to talk about supervised driving time. When you're in a GDL time, permit time, driving education time, you're going to have someone over the age of 21 sitting in that right seat. Take all the time you possibly can. Anytime, like your parents say, oh, do you want to drive to the store? Do you want to drive here? Do you want to drive there? A trusted family friend says, hey, if your son's available, he can drive, I'll watch him driving. Take any amount of time you possibly can to drive with an adult in that right seat. And please make sure, if you're taking some time to do it, make sure they stay awake, make sure they're not on their phones, and talk to them about it. Say, you know, I'm learning, you're my second set of eyes, please pay attention. Because a lot of times we find that the adult sitting next to the new driver isn't paying full attention. So as many hours as you can. I hope you get 100 or 200 hours in that permit time, because that's what you need. The more time you can drive, the better. New research initiatives in Europe and Scandinavia are bringing up the importance of teaching the mental or thinking side of driving. Well, actually, most of my work has concentrated around the mental side of driving for years. This means that we as educators need to give you the right kind of information in the right way so that you want to make the safer driving choices. That's exactly what I'm trying to do today. Giving you some sometimes unfortunate realities and also giving you solutions. Before I give you back to your teachers, let's have a look at this PSA. I'm going to twist things up afterwards.
You should totally talk to him. No, I don't know though. I'm scared. I mean, you're
Do you know that you're in my lane? No, not at all. Are you not paying attention? Are you texting? I was just checking in with my mom. I was telling her that I thought we'd be home by 6. It's okay. There's enough time. Just pay attention. I'm not even halfway through my text. There's no way. I'm not even going to look up. My babies are in the car. You have to pay attention. It's just supposed to be a quick text. I'm so sorry.
Obviously, that PSA focused on not texting while driving. We now know that texting while driving is just one of many problems associated with the use of smartphones while driving. I often see things a little differently when it comes to traffic safety. So let me explain why this PSA addresses, in my opinion, half the problem and not the whole problem with distracted driving. If I'd been scripting that PSA, I would have given the young lady who was texting while driving a different script. So let me explain that a little bit. We've got the mom addressing the lady. The mom's upset. She said, you've got to pay attention. And if I'm listening and I haven't said anything yet, I'm the girl who was actually texting, I would say to the mother, I would give her a different script. I would say, hey, I'm a texting driver. We are everywhere. You didn't see me coming? Where have you been? You've never seen, you've never heard of us? We run red lights. We text all the time. That's what we do. You've got children in your vehicle. Why were you still in front of me? I'm texting. You're a mom. You've got children. Why were you in my way? You should have been on the brakes. You should have gone left. You should have gone right. But you shouldn't be in my way. Now, understanding what I've done here, what I've said is basically the young girl was saying, hey, I'm a dangerous driver and I'm everywhere. The mom was saying, hey, you're a dangerous driver, you're going to hurt me and my children. Well, she was obviously vulnerable. There's no reason why, if she was a fully paying attention driver, she wouldn't have done something to get out of the way. The young girl was texting, she was dangerous, and the mom with the children, in my opinion, she'd made herself vulnerable. And she didn't get out of the way. I wonder if she was distracted. We don't know. It's a good PSA, but the bottom line is, for me, it's only addressing half the story. I'm sure your teachers can go over that. Remember, you don't want to be dangerous or vulnerable. There is responsibility on both sides of this crash, although the texting driver is more at fault. This crash was preventable and avoidable. Collisions like this happen every day. Human error on both sides. In this case, we know the dangerous texting driver was not even going to look up. Paying full attention to driving and therefore not being vulnerable would have given the mum more time to react. Discuss with your teacher what options the mum could have chosen to make the safest decision to avoid this collision completely or at least lessen the impact. You have to anticipate that every driver around you is distracted. Never assume they'll do the right thing. If you're not expecting a red light runner every time you go through a green light, you're not driving, you're dreaming. Please pay 100% attention to your driving at all times. Dangerous, distracted, and reckless drivers are everywhere. I really want to say thank you again to you and your teachers for the time today. I hope you share and discuss all of the information you've heard today with your friends and family. Changing distracted driving culture starts with the choices we all make. I hope what you've learned today will motivate you to always choose safety for yourself and everyone else on our roads.